Now, the Triumph Scrambler 1200X was collected the other day and they replaced it with this Triumph Scrambler 900, and we've been out and about. Out and about?
Out and about, yeah.
Doesn't sound right.
That's
Out
correct.
and about with it today. It doesn't sound right somehow when I say it. And it's a lovely motorcycle. Both make really good road motorcycles, there's no doubt about that. Off-road motorcycles, that's another story. I think not, because they're too heavy, they're too big, they're too unwieldy, too heavy for proper off-road motorcycles, but they'd both be perfectly fine down a farm track if you were going camping on a farm somewhere in Wales or Devon or something. Perfectly all right. But we were thinking perhaps the 900 might be the better bike to buy over the 1200X, but after riding it around, we're not so sure, are we?
No, honestly, I thought on paper that I was going to prefer the 900, mainly because when I rode the 1200X, I thought this is a fantastic bike, but I felt like it was too powerful for the roads, the sort of back lanes that we have in England, which you would expect a scrambler motorcycle to be at home on. So it just felt a little bit too powerful, a little bit too big. If it was a lot cheaper than it is, then I would justify the difference between the two bikes. But this one is only a fractional amount less than the 1200, which makes you think, what is the point in buying this over the 1200 when you get so much more bike for your money with the 1200?
Yeah, exactly. The one thing I felt about the X version is that it's a little bit too bling. There's lots of sort of silvery bits stuck on here and there, and it kind of is a bit of overkill. This is less so, isn't it? It doesn't look quite as blingy.
Yeah.
Even though it's still quite chunky, still quite hefty, the engine and the chassis are very deep, if you like. There's not much ground clearance. When I was behind Darcy, it looks really close to the ground. So it is a road motorcycle in a scrambler style. That's a certainty, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen one of the, not that I go off-road to look at them, but I don't think I've really ever seen anyone take one of these off-road unless they've done some modifications to make it more off-road biased. And I have seen plenty of these on the road. It does, looking at it, it looks like they've compacted a lot into the frame. You know, there's a lot, you know, there's no gaps there. It's a real sort of, like they've crammed it in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's definitely all style over practicality. Again, mudguards, you know what we're going to say. Mudguard's too short, so if you go anywhere dirty, you're going to get crud in the radiator, which is really hard to wash off because there's no gaps to get brushes in, etc. So practicality-wise, it's not that brilliant. But as an urban scrambler, something in the city streets that looks cool, sounds all right, quite posy, it's a good bike, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to grab attention, especially in this colour. I don't know what this colour's called exactly, do you?
No, I don't, but I looked on their website today and it's not on there. So,
really? So
there are 3 other colours.
Last year's one.
Must be the outgoing one.
But I really like that colour, and I thought, looking down on the bike while you're riding it, the fuel tank is a very beautiful thing to behold. You've got a lovely fuel cap, which is beautiful and classic, and the shape of the tank in between your legs, it is really beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. The quality of the Triumphs is very good. It's very high. There's no doubt. Every part on the bike is really lovely. Probably slightly better on the 1200, isn't it?
Yeah, the 1200 does feel a little bit more like you're getting a slightly more premium product, but it really isn't that much more expensive, is it?
No, that's the thing, you see. So should you just spend a little bit more and get the 1200X? In a way, probably. But then in a way, probably not, because I do prefer the power delivery of the 900. It's more than enough. It's the sort of Goldilocks bike, if you like, where it's just the right amount. It's probably too much for certain situations and not enough for others. So long distance travelling on the motorways, the 1200 would be better.
Yeah, it would.
Back lanes, this would be better. Off-road, this would be better, but not betterer than something with a smaller engine. That's correct English, betterer.
Betterer, is it?
Yes, yeah.
Well, I actually think, in my head, the way I would see these two bikes is this is more of what a scrambler should be, although it's not quite. It's still more of a road bike, whereas the 1200 feels to me like an adventure bike with more modern classic styling. And if you see it in that way, that it's sort of a competitor to, you know, a KTM 1290 Adventure or something like that, then I think, well, I'd much rather have the Triumph, and that's a great option. So if you view it like an adventure bike with more classic styling, then I think that's more true to what it actually is than a Scrambler.
Yeah, whether you can get those sort of adventure style luggage boxes and things on it, I don't know.
I don't know.
But I suppose it's possible.
I'm sure someone does them.
Perhaps they should make them into the make an adventure bike official version of one.
Now today, because we were riding this Triumph 900 with the blue tank, I thought I must match my hat to the tank. So this is a beanie hat from Sons, and in fact, everything we're wearing today is from Sons.
Yeah.
And we've got, both of us are wearing the same jeans.
Yeah, Steve McQueen jeans. These are so lovely. They're really nice material, aren't they?
Yeah.
But very stylish. But
which again I thought was fitting.
Authentic. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we think of these things, don't we?
We do, and the quality of these is just fabulous. And I've not worn this jacket since last winter because obviously it's starting to get cold again now, and this is lovely and warm. It's got a lovely wool liner. So they really are the best at making practical, fashionable, stylish, manly clothing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Exactly.
So if you want to check out Sons clothing, then there is a link in the description, and you can use our discount code, which is in the description as well. We'll leave it in a pinned comment too, and you'll get 20% off, so don't miss out on that discount.
Well worth it.
But yeah, we literally wear Sons all the time.
Yep.
No matter what we're doing, there's a different piece of Sons clothing to fit the occasion.
On the 900, you've got the conventional spoked wheels with tube tyres, which look so much nicer in my opinion, but I know most people would want tubeless tyres, but these look so much nicer. We're not bothered by that, are we?
No, I mean, I suppose it depends what you're doing. If you do a lot of off-roading and you go over a lot of rocky stuff or thorns and things, and you're worried about getting a puncture, then it makes sense to want to have the tubeless spoked wheels. But yeah, rightly so, they do look better like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just depends whether you're unlucky or not, I suppose, and you get a puncture.
Exactly.
But it does depend what you do on it, I think. If you're just doing general road riding, you're very unlikely to get a puncture, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. This also has a 19-inch front wheel, whereas the 1200's got a 21. I think the handling on this is therefore a little bit better, a little bit more responsive in the steering. We've got the steering geometry is completely different on this one. You've got a steeper rake, shorter trail. But again, like I said on the 1200 video, the perfect Scrambler for me would have between a 28 and a 30 degree rake for that stability. And when you just turn off the road onto the rough stuff with that kind of geometry, the bike feels much more stable, and I like that feeling. And the first thing I said when I got on this, and I don't know if you said it, is that the pegs feel too far back for me.
A little bit. I would do with putting them forward maybe 2 inches or something. Yeah, they're slightly more in a sportier riding position, which is very typical of Triumph, I think. Apart from like the Speedmaster, where you've got a really lovely riding position.
I think that's the thing about Triumphs, aren't they? The Bonnevilles are modern motorcycles through and through that look classic. So they ride like a modern motorcycle, feel like a modern motorcycle, but look classic. I'd say that's what defines them.
I think that's why they're so popular and why you see so many of them, because they tick a lot of people's boxes of being a reliable, practical, sometimes, apart from the mud guards, you know, modern feeling bike with all the mod cons and the modern reliability and technology, but they've got the classic styling. So they're a really good all-round motorcycle, really. They're a sort of almost a do-it-all bike, but not the, what's the saying?
It's not a country bike, is it?
No, no.
It's a sort of weekend, go off somewhere, nicest bike, but ride and commute in the city in the week bike, I think.
I think so. I mean, most of the Triumph Scramblers I've ever seen have been in London. So every time I go to London, I see a Triumph Scrambler. They are brilliant posing bikes. Stick a loud exhaust on there, and go around the streets of Soho, going, you know, and everyone's looking at you. That is, I've seen a lot of them like that.
Soho's a different place in my head than what it is in your head.
Yeah, well now it's just like bars and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't in my day. The speedometer on this is in the centre where it should be. Well done, Triumph. And it's also analogue, which is even better, so double well done to Triumph on that, because that's becoming rarer and rarer, and I hope that stays for longer. I don't know, I haven't checked the new model whether it's got that or not. We'll find out.
The other thing I noticed about this bike is that it's quite small. It does look small, even when there's no one on it. And when you see the old man on top of it, it does look like a very small bike. I mean, you wouldn't think it was a 900 from looking at it. It does really feel small. And I think that actually the Scrambler 400X feels bigger. It's got more room on it. The riding position on that bike is really damn good, and it does feel taller as well, and it's got, I think, more ground clearance. And I think if you were buying a Triumph Scrambler specifically, that's what you want, but you do want it to be a bit more off-road capable, the 400X is the best one out of the bunch.
Yeah, it probably is actually.
Yeah,
with the right tyres.
yeah.
It's quite light, isn't it?
Yeah, much lighter.
Nice looking little engine.
Yeah.
Kind of revvy,
Yeah.
but that's what Triumph like. I think, see, the thing about Triumph, because they've got a racing pedigree, fine, sharp handling and powerful engines are very much at the top of their priority list. And that's not particularly at the top of ours, because we like sort of throaty, deep, torquey engines ideally. Lighter weight, less bulky looking bikes, don't we? So, not to say we don't like them, it's a different sort of
Yeah,
ethos.
I do like them. I do like them, but I've not. I suppose the only ones I've ridden where I thought I would happily own this bike have been the Speedmaster and the T120.
I think I probably prefer the T100, only in that it's got this 900 engine, which is just a little bit less tuned, and I think for the real roads that's nicer.
I think in terms of looks alone, I think the T120 is the best looking modern Triumph. It just looks perfect, and because it's the 120 and not the 100, just the finer details are slightly better quality. So I thought that overall it felt like a better quality bike, and obviously it is more money, so that's why.
Now, this exhaust is a sort of traditional Scrambler style exhaust, but if you look at old bikes from the 1960s, 70s with this sort of exhaust up here, because the exhaust was so narrow and the bike was less chunky, the actual exhaust came inside the frame, so inside here, and came out there. This sticks out so far because it's so fat, and it's even fatter, I think, on the 1200. So that means your legs kind of pushed out another 6 inches, whereas in the olden days it wouldn't do that. So bikes have become really chunky, like I said in the last video.
During the war. Yeah. But I think furthermore on the exhaust, I did feel like this one sounds better than the 1200X. I think it's slightly deeper, slightly louder, and it didn't have in the 1200X. I think they've put something in the exhaust to try and add sort of engineered character, where it does this sort of raspy rattle on the overrun.
Yeah.
But doesn't sound right. It's like they're trying to make it sound like a raspy exhaust tone, which you would get with a louder exhaust without being able to do that because of regulations. But instead what you end up with is something that just sounds like there's some loose bolts rattling around.
Yeah, it really picks it up on our microphone as well when we were riding and watching back. If you've ever taken one apart, let us know. But it feels like there's a little sort of thing in there doing that, rattling around to give that sound, doesn't it?
Yeah, it almost reminds me of like being a kid and putting like top trumps in the spokes of your bicycle to try and make it sound like a motorbike. It's like they've done that with the motorbike to make it sound better, but I don't think it's worked.
No, I think the thing about these bikes is that we're being more critical than perhaps we would with a Royal Enfield because it's so much more expensive. When you've got a Royal Enfield sitting in front of you, it's 5.5, or what's the Bear priced at?
6,800.
You kind of forgive it a bit because it's that cheap. What would you expect? So you're a little bit less critical, aren't you? But when you think this is at the higher end, you think, okay, could that be better, or could that have been done differently?
Yeah, and that's the same with anything in life. When you're spending more money, you do expect a lot more, and you've got higher expectations. So that can sometimes come across as we're being more critical. But that's why, really, because you sort of think, I'm paying an extra $4,000. So we will be doing a comparison between this 900 and my Bear 650. Really, to decide whether I made the right choice in buying the Bear over the 900. So we might give that away in this video, but stay tuned for that one, because it's not just about that. We're going to actually compare the two bikes, and if you're thinking of getting a Scrambler, you may well be weighing up the difference between the two, because the Royal Enfield is a cheaper option. It's not that far off in terms of performance, in terms of like speed and power. So I think they are very closely matched, and I think you would be considering the two perhaps. And they do serve a different purpose. Yeah,
and if you were going to comment saying, well, there's other makes of Scramblers that you could look at, in our world there isn't, unless it looks like a modern classic or an old classic bike. We're not even going to start if it doesn't have that style, because that's the first step in what it has to be for us. So that's why we only do these sorts of bikes on the channel, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've recently actually been going through our backlog of videos, which if you haven't done and you're new around here, go back and watch some of our old videos. We've been making motorcycle videos for 7 years. So we have got hundreds of videos on motorcycles, and we often get comments saying, oh, can you review such and such bike? And we go, yeah, we did 4 years ago. So if you search perhaps the bike that you're looking for and put Mr. Darcy and the Old Man, it will come up with our video that we've done on it, if we have done one. But looking back at our past videos, our earlier on videos, we did do all sorts. We did adventure bikes, sports bikes, naked bikes, as well as the modern classics. But we sort of, because we now do this full time and we love these kinds of motorcycles, we just find it difficult to review or ride bikes that we don't really like. So that's why I guess sometimes people say, oh, you only do positive reviews, but that's half the reason is because we're riding bikes that we actually like rather than ones that we don't. So if we got hold of something that was completely out of our normal type of bike, we might be saying, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, so exactly, yeah. And we just can't be bothered to actually put ourselves in that position. What's the point?
Because it's not enjoyable to ride something you don't like. You've got to spend a whole day filming a video, a whole day editing a video. That's why we stick to this kind of bike.
Yeah, it's like being a food channel only reviewing curries, and you hate curries.
Yeah.
So it's like you review stuff you kind of like, and we might mix and match a bit. But we've done the mixing and matching all in the past, haven't we?
We spent 4 years to get to 4 or 5 years to get to that realisation that we only really want to focus on mainly modern classics, cruisers like Harleys and stuff like that. But I'm sure we will, do the odd thing that's a bit out of our comfort zone, just to reinsure. Yeah, like we've just done some scooter videos, but I wouldn't mind doing the odd thing about maybe an adventure bike or something, mainly to see if it might change my mind. But I don't think it will.
Adventure bike, have you? I have. I don't really like them. But have you actually ridden a proper, what you would call an adventure bike?
Well, I suppose when I had my A2 licence, I rode the Honda NX 500, which is a small adventure bike. I thought I had. I have. I've ridden the Pan America.
Yeah, okay.
And I didn't like it.
No.
It was so heavy. And what happened was, I was at the Mally Mile, and there was an off-road course, and they said, "Oh, do you want to have a go off-road?" I thought, "Oh God, that's terrifying." Here's some flat track racers, championship riders. Go and have a ride with them. Right, okay. So I'm trying to keep up with them, and they're going dust in my face. I couldn't see a thing, and then I sort of felt like I had to try and follow their exact route, and they went up this big, like, steep mound thing that was like 8 foot tall. I went up it, and I thought, oh my God, I'm up here now. How the hell am I going to get down? Because it was nearly vertical. I did get down.
It's as heavy as a car as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a nice bike to ride off-road.
I don't know how I didn't come off, but, you know, I was surprised myself, especially with that bike. But I didn't come away going, oh yeah, I'd love to have one of these. It was sort of like, oh no, I definitely don't like that. So, to summarise, I suppose, between the 900 and the 1200, which is the one to go for? It is a difficult choice because they're so close in price that initially I thought 1200's too much bike, too much power. But actually, because it's only like $1,500 or less than that, more than this, then I think it's a no-brainer to get the bigger one. You know, and I think if you went to a bike meet and you showed up and someone's got the 1200, you'd probably look at it and go, oh, I wish I bought that one. Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
But you might not. You might just go, well, I'm happy with the 900. I prefer the 900 engine. I don't need the extra power. But then to me, it boils down to the price again, because you think it's only slightly less. So I think it should be less. There should be more of a gap in the pricing, personally. I think there should be maybe 2,500–3,000 in it, and then you could justify the differences. But they're too closely priced, I think. So that's what I think. Let us know what you think in the comments below. What do you think?
I agree. Couldn't say anything else, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the next video where we're going to be comparing the 900 to my Bear 650. And make sure you're subscribed and you hit the notification bell so you don't miss it.